everyone, I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson. As always, joining me is my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, I'm super excited. We've been wanting to try to get Nick Tarpoff on for a long time. We got John Raymond, the Hall of Famer, in the studio with us as well.
Absolutely, yep.
So been excited to get to Nick. And Nick was just a great athlete at Anderson High School. Yeah. You know, when you play sports and you always hear about some of the names and all that stuff, and I remember playing football and I heard about Nick.
This guy.
Yeah, I heard about his name and you know, of course, all that stuff. So it's going to be great to hear the stories that Nick's got to talk about and playing sports at Anderson.
Well, we both obviously always looked up to Nick and heard all the stories, growing up. But I'll tell you, he's not only a great guy, but he's also, I think, in sports at Anderson, he's in like the less than 1 percentile of athletes that went on to play Division I sports.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into that later. It's a pretty big thing.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Yeah. I can't wait to talk to you. So Nick, as we said, join us, Nick Tarpoff. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's go back. We always try to go back to talking about growing up. So let's talk about growing up in Anderson, where you grew up, what side of Anderson you grew up, and just talk about being a little kid in Anderson.
Okay, my mom and dad bought a house in 1957, and I was born in 57, right behind the Beachmont Mall. The mall wasn't there yet.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it was there. Yeah.
But the name of our street was Plaza View Court.
Okay.
And that was all fields, fruit trees, apple trees, pear trees.
Wow.
Wild horses.
Where the mall is.
Is
that right?
Wild horses.
And there would be a gravel driveway, and as kids we could just walk up, and I never rode the horses. I wasn't that coordinated. But they had an electric fence around the horses, and a gentleman you probably know, Zach Lutz. Yeah. Seems like everybody knows Zach, but we'd sneak into the horses and they'd ride them, and that was crazy. A big playground. And then they started building the mall, and that's when they dug into a dinosaur, and then they stopped construction of the mall. Hold
on a minute. What?
Yeah.
They actually found a dinosaur?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Did you know that, John?
I didn't know that.
And where they found it is where Kroger's is. That used to be a real deep pit, a big valley. And they were slowly...
That's where the raptor name came from.
That's not... Let's not go there.
I had to throw that. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were there. We saw all the excavation for it, and so they delayed, the mall for about 10 years.
That is crazy.
Holy
So when I forgot, when did the mall, when was it? It was in 67?
Well,
60?
I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
Facing Beachmont side in that old school, the middle school.
Yeah.
Watching them build the mall.
That is crazy.
3rd grade.
I think it opened in 1970.
1970.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So growing up in that neighborhood that you were at, who were some of the guys? Was there other guys in your neighborhood that you ended up going to school with? And what'd you guys do as far as just playing sports and all that stuff? Did you guys do a lot of...
Well, it's what our kids didn't get to experience. When we grew up, there was a bunch of kids in the neighborhood, and there were fields, and you could play games.
Yeah.
There were football games, baseball games, football games, capture the flag.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Somebody that you have already interviewed, Rick Elliott, they lived in another subdivision, and we would get we had football teams.
Okay.
And we would play other neighborhoods.
And pride.
Yeah.
That's the best.
So there were like 4 or 5 neighborhood football teams, and if you had equipment, you would wear equipment. If you didn't, you didn't.
That's the best.
I love it. I love it. So, all right. So, as you were growing up there, I'm like still stuck on the dinosaur thing. But you started playing sports. I can imagine. Started getting on teams. And what was some of your sports that you played, or your favorite sports? As you were young.
The first team I played for was Anderson Kiwanis.
Okay.
And a famous guy by the name of Lucky Lanier.
Okay.
Was one of the coaches on that team. He's pretty famous, and Bill Kerr. But anyway, I started with the Anderson Hills Kiwanis, and then we were pretty good.
But that's basketball, right?
That would be baseball.
That's baseball.
Really? Yeah.
Okay.
That was the first sport I played. And then from that team, the Kiwanis, then I went on to play for the Midland organization,
Midland Jets.
the Midland Jets.
Yes, that's I know that very well.
Yeah.
All right, so where were going back that far? Where were some of the games? Because this is interesting to me. Like where
Yeah,
some of
it's
the
fun.
games that you played at that age?
It's fun when you drive around. You point out like St. John Fisher down in Newtown.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the better fields.
Oh yeah.
And then the field down in Newtown behind, I'm going to say basically behind the United Dairy Farmers, there was a field there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where?
Yeah, just right back by the, I don't know what's there now. It's like condos or something back
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
but it's-
okay.
Yeah, it's back over
there
there.
was-
There was a church back there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And that was a field. And then Newtown Elementary had a field back in there.
Yeah.
Well, what about the 3 fields behind the firehouse?
I was getting ready to say that one.
That's where the Ellises came from, right?
That's right. We lived there.
Your dad, I mean, he had a connection there.
Well, yeah, being a volunteer fireman. Yeah, I can remember being there all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Eastern Hills was always a good place.
Yes.
You know,
good call.
If you had a lot of rain, you'd know you would play.
Yeah.
Mount Washington.
Yeah, we played at Mount Washington too.
Yeah.
What about the post?
Post 318.
318 was fun.
Yeah.
You know, you're back in the woods there, and there was that batting cage.
Yeah.
That was
I remember
there forever.
Yeah.
But there were good games there.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, I drove up 5 Mile and I look over and I'm like, that doesn't look like it'd be a deep home run fence there.
Well, how about it was the white building at Anderson.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is now.
They use it for like a
The
classroom.
bus garage,
Yeah.
where the administration works out.
Okay,
Yeah.
is there still a field there?
No.
Okay, but that was a pretty popular field.
Yeah.
And they had the home run fence.
Is that right?
You know, it was pretty far, but it was fun to play there.
Yeah. All right. You got something, Danny?
No.
Okay. So I want to go back to, or move on into the middle school. You mentioned the school across the street from you. So would you walk to school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the time, the middle school, what were the grades there?
It went to 8th grade.
So
Is it sixth,
kindergarten to
seventh,
8th grade, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went there from kindergarten all the way up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought.
is crazy.
That's before some of these other. Yeah. Wow.
So Nick, Steve and I brought this up on several podcasts before. We were the last graduating class from Anderson Middle School.
Yeah.
Really?
We were the last one. Yeah.
It makes it special. I
It
guess.
does make it. I mean, it is. But that school was pretty cool.
We should have a T-shirt.
We should last graduate. Yeah, we should.
Well, you know what? That was a really good gym.
Oh, the whole building I loved.
Yeah.
You know?
It really was.
I felt tall going in that one hallway, going into the
Cafeteria.
Cafeteria.
Going in the cafeteria.
Did you ever practice or play in the little?
Oh yeah, with the seats up top, and the wall for the out of bounds was right
Just
there.
Yeah.
Your feet were actually inbounds and out of bounds at the same
Now,
time.
can you imagine how that was the varsity team in its day?
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to Hoosiers.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
definitely goes back to Hoosiers.
So, all right. So, when you were at Anderson Middle School, at what point did you know about the split between Anderson and Turpin?
Middle school, you didn't know. I think we knew the split really my junior year.
Is that okay? Is that when you found out, or is that when it happened?
Yeah. It happened my senior year.
Your senior
We were
year.
the last full class to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were the largest class.
Okay.
Up until that time.
Okay.
And then the following year, that was the year they had Dotson and Campbell and that group. I think that's what affected their team too. I mean, they had some good talent, but they split.
So being the last full class to go through just Anderson, that's probably a little bit better than our.
Yeah, I would agree.
Middle
Yeah,
school.
I kind of like that too. So.
If I'm not mistaken, I think didn't some of those guys actually go to that school? I don't know what they
The
did.
story went, Turpin was just 9th through 11th. Anderson seniors, the class of 77 stayed, but then there was a problem at the school and they had to go to Turpin to finish their education.
Okay.
They weren't in the Anderson building.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If I can recall correctly from my older siblings, there was, I don't know if it was a weather related or school related where you had to go with like in the evening or something like that?
Split sessions,
schedule?
Yeah.
So tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I don't really remember because we were on the early schedule.
Oh, that's good.
We finished really early.
Okay.
And then I think we finished by 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, we went, juniors and seniors went 7:05 to 1:30, and then the sophomores and freshmen came in at 10:30 and went to 4:30.
Okay.
And their practice schedule sucked because
Right. Yeah.
they're practicing into the night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's transition then into the high school, and we'll talk about the sports that you played. I want to start off first with baseball. Let's talk about playing baseball at Anderson. Let's go start with your freshman year, working your way up. So, who was your coach? Was it Neiman?
It was Neiman, yeah.
And then did you play? Was there a JV team then, or varsity? Or did you
JV,
play? Okay.
yeah.
Did you start off on JV, or did you go right up to varsity?
No, I was on JV, and I really wasn't even playing. You know, it was middle of the season. It's like, man, I'm not even playing. And then Coach Neiman asked Watterson, they needed a pitcher.
Okay.
And, he knew I could throw. So they were playing St. X, and they asked me to come up to pitch against St. X. In that game, I think I went 7 innings, and I gave up 8 runs.
Okay.
But we were in the game. It was a competitive game.
Okay.
But he kept me in the game because I didn't have any pitchers.
Okay.
But that game I went 3 for 3. So they never let me go back down to the JV. They kept me on varsity. And
the rest is history.
So was that freshman or sophomore year?
That was my freshman year.
Wow, awesome.
And these guys like Raymond and Tommy Johnson, some of these guys that were in school, they were saying like, man, you're one of the first freshman guys that played varsity.
Yeah.
And I really didn't realize it.
It's a rare feat.
Yeah, it really is. That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
And my freshman year was my best year hitting. I just feel like I really didn't have nothing to lose. And
well, that's probably exactly what it was. Is you're like,
I had no pressure whatsoever, and I really hit well.
Yeah. Well, so you did. So then you were on varsity sophomore, junior, senior year then, right? After that freshman year.
Freshman, yeah.
Okay. And then what position did they make you more of a pitcher, or were you? What position did you play?
I did both.
You did both? Pitcher and what else?
They had me at first base.
First base.
And then I'd play right field.
Okay.
Wherever you had to play, you played. But in my younger years, I was a pretty good pitcher. And then I'd say if I could have learned how to throw my curveball a little faster, I had a real big curveball.
Yeah.
Like your brother. I mean, I had a real big, wide curveball, but it was slow. Yeah. And it never registered to me until I got into college that if I'd have just thrown a slider, that would have really complemented my pitching. And,
right.
But I thought it was cool to have this big curveball.
Yeah.
And the good hitters could hit it.
Go ahead.
How was Jim Neiman? How was Coach Neiman?
Yeah.
I mean, he seems so knowledgeable. He played at UC, right?
He did.
He seems so knowledgeable because he wasn't coaching there when we were there, but we had him for gym class, and I mean, all you had to do was just bring up, baseball, something like that. And that would be a half-hour, conversation. But I mean, he seemed like he would be a good guy to coach or to play for.
Yeah. I do keep in touch with him. He's still living.
That's great.
Yeah, he's in North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah, by far he was my best coach of anything.
Yeah.
He could lead by example, just his drills were dead on.
Yeah.
The technique. Taught us great technique, especially with hitting.
Yeah.
Defensively, ground balls. His practice drills were, all old school stuff, but it's what you needed in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We practice in the gym. You probably did this too.
Yeah.
They hit all those wood bleachers.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we're hitting those balls.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And we're cracking those bleachers.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And they used to give him hell.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think Dotson hit a ball and it broke the clock.
Oh no!
And then I think they got on Neiman. Neiman was in denial, like, "Hey, we didn't do that." but I think Dotson hit it really hard, hard ball in the gym and broke the clock.
Well, so talk about that. You brought up Rich Dotson, who we've had on here before. But talk about some other guys too besides Dotson that you played with.
Well, my freshman year, there was Rob Corkin. I mean, he was extremely good pitcher. He could throw hard. And then his catcher was Joe Carter, and he went to Xavier. Corkin went to a small, I want to say Rawlings.
Okay.
He didn't go 4 years. I guess he had arm trouble. But Tommy Schottel, he got drafted. He was really good.
Really?
Terry McMillan was the grade underneath that. He went to Marietta, but that was the freshman group. And then sophomore group, I'll reach back into Johnny Adams was on that team.
Adams.
Great football player, but I think if he would have just focused on baseball, he'd have been really, really good. He could have gone to the next level, I think.
Yeah. Really?
He had speed, power. He had everything.
Yeah.
And Becker.
Rick Becker.
But he really liked basketball. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, Neiman wouldn't chase those guys. If they wanted to play basketball, he'd let them go. He wouldn't try to talk them to come back.
Really?
Mark Reed was a good pitcher.
Yes.
And he went on to play basketball, and Neiman wouldn't go chase him.
Wow.
And we really could have used those guys.
Yeah.
Later down the road.
So how were your teams?
Well, we won our league.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was that the Hamilton County League back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a very tough league.
Sure.
Clifford, I don't know if you ever heard of Clifford. He was quarterback for Indiana. He was one of the pitchers in that league.
Okay.
You won't know these guys' names, but it was Huff out of Northwest. Then there was Forest Park. There was a guy by the name of Stapleton. Big guys, pitchers.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that was because it was like Oak Hill's not healthy. Colerain.
Right.
Yeah, Colerain was amazing in baseball.
Yeah.
Oak Hills was really tough. Oak Hills had Snyder. He went to Florida State.
Wow. Some talent.
Baseball in the Hamilton County League was really competitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably the best in the city, probably. Besides the GCL.
well,
I know, but it was like probably the big school league back then.
Yeah, but we played Elder, and that was the year, Dotson was ineligible, and we played with him.
Yeah.
And then that's without Dotson, a major league all-star.
Right.
You put him in the equation, and we
changes things.
Yeah. But Kaninsky, bar none, probably one of the better hitters to ever come through the ranks.
Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You grew up with him.
Oh yeah.
Ink and
Jack. I told the story when we had Jack on here, and my dad had built in our garage a big tarp and built his like a man-made tee, and it was 20 below, and Jack would knock on our front door and ask if he can go in there and hit, and he'd go in there and hit 200-300 balls.
I believe it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
When I played against Jack in Little League, it was one of those games where the umpire was standing behind you.
Okay.
So I was on Kiwanis playing against the Jets, and Jack's like 3 for 3, and I turned around to his dad. I said, "Man, I can't get that guy out." I didn't know it was his kid. He goes, "If you want to get him out," he goes, "just lob one in." This is his dad telling me how to get his son out.
That's hilarious.
First pitch, I just lobbed it in, and he hit this little nubber.
Really?
And they're right back to me.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That is the best. Oh my
That's
God.
a good laugh.
That is awesome.
Other guys we had too was Steve Smith. He played at UC.
Yeah.
Timmy Campbell.
Yeah.
He played at Marietta, which my first year I went to Marietta, and Timmy went to Marietta. Marietta, and then he transferred to UC like I did. But Timmy Campbell was good as.
So that, I mean, I just remember hearing all those guys back in that era that were unbelievable.
Great era.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's transition now. We'll get into the football side of it.
Okay.
So I know you played at Anderson. You know, when that Anderson-Turpin split was going on, and I'm sure with that happening, a lot of guys had to go both ways. And I thought, now tell me if I'm right or wrong on this one. I know you played quarterback, but didn't you also play linebacker?
I did.
That blows me away. A starting quarterback as a linebacker. Talk about that when you had the split.
It was horrible.
So talk about the split, you know, obviously having a guy who's now go both ways, but talk a little bit about that, and then also talk about how horrible it was to be a quarterback and a linebacker.
Well, with the split, my senior year, I think they had some sophomores playing on our varsity team. I don't know if you heard of a guy by the name of Rick Haynes, real fast guy.
Yeah.
Rick Haynes, they would put him as a wideout. Yeah. And he was so fast, I'd go back to pass, set up, and he was so far down the field, I couldn't even throw it that far. Yeah. You know, he didn't know how to come back on the ball. He was just so fast. Yeah. Jimmy Porter played, as a sophomore. Yep. He was really good.
So those guys playing as sophomores, then they went to Turpin?
They went to Turpin. Okay. Yeah.
Well, Rick Haynes, I mean, obviously the Hall of Famer at Turpin. I mean, that ought to say something right there, how good he was. So you're missing all those guys. But there's a story. Now, you might have told me this, and I can't remember that there was a play you were playing, I don't remember, help me with this one, that you were playing quarterback. Something about throwing a pass, and you were playing linebacker, and you had an arm pad on. You had to go back in and go play line. Something to that effect that you had to go both ways, and you had to go back in there, but you had your pads on from playing linebacker.
We had. We didn't have the best equipment.
Oh, well, I remember.
You know, I'm not bashing on Anderson.
No, I remember.
And the worst thing we didn't have was grass on the practice field. Right. You know, it was all that chickweed. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And if early in the year you would get some chickweed, but as practices went on,
just a dust bowl.
Gone.
Just a dust bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. But we would wear those rubber pads on our arms. Yeah. And back then, a forearm was a big deal, right? So I had to have them because I did give a good forearm, and my arms would swell up.
Sure.
So when we were on defense, then we had to switch to offense. I'm throwing all these pads, off on the sidelines, and then quarterbacking, and then having a punt, and then throwing that shit back on. And
I just can't believe that. I just can't even imagine. You would never, ever see a quarterback and play linebacker this day.
Might be the last person to do it.
I don't know. I just remember something about, I don't know, you're going for, I can't remember the whole story. And it was just funny about throwing the pads off. And I was sitting there thinking, my God. I mean, and give me some, again, who was your coach again? Was it Seymour?
Burns.
Burns, okay. Yeah. And then, didn't you have like Timmy Hall?
Yes.
You had those guys. So talk a little about some of those guys and your coach there.
Well, Burn he was a player at Xavier. Xavier University, and apparently a very, very good athlete. He could run faster backwards than we could forwards.
Oh, geez.
I mean, he was an amazing athlete. But he was more of an X's and O guy. Never really taught technique. None of them really taught technique. It was just X's and O's. Yeah. And we practiced the same play over and over. We had to go.
Sounds familiar.
Looks good on paper.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Was he a teacher too?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Yeah.
What did he teach?
I think history.
And that's funny. That's all the football coaches teach.
Stowe was the same way.
Yeah.
And it was the Ohio State run right, run left. Try to play Big Ten football when we played Coach Stowe. I mean, I loved him. I absolutely loved the guy. But Anderson they couldn't run that Ohio State stuff. I mean, that's just what it was. And so I don't know what it was like for you as far as.
No, we had the fullback and running back and a wing back. And everything was real tight.
Right.
And every which way Timmy Hall would go, that was the play. So if you're going to read our fullback, you've got the play.
Yeah.
You know?
That's it.
And we would never, ever pass, only on third down.
Really?
We would never pass on first, second. It would be third down. And
so did you run the ball a lot then for you as a quarterback?
I did. Yeah, we had a fake dive, and then that wasn't.
So your playbook was pretty like this sheet of paper here.
Yeah, I mean, we had a gazillion plays. That was part of the problem too. You know, every week he would change the plays.
Yeah.
It'd be a different playbook every week.
Yeah. Really?
And we always went on the first go. First go, we never went on to.
Pretty predictable to read your team then, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Do you remember who some of the assistant coaches were that were teachers?
We had Lutterby was an assistant coach.
So he had started already. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Honchel.
No.
Bowman was it?
Yeah, Bowman.
Chuck Bowman?
Yeah. I think he became the head coach.
At Amelia?
No, he was baseball coach.
Yeah. When Neiman retired, Bowman became head coach baseball, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that lasted very long.
It didn't, because he actually moved over to Glen Estee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a stud.
He looked like a stud.
Yeah.
Brad played for him, and he looked like a mean, like don't mess with him type of guy.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah.
Very nice guy, but he was definitely put together.
Yeah. All those teachers back then. I mean, and it was so different because there was a lot more male teachers than there are now. But you think about, Sanders and Center and, Neiman and all these,
Well, I mean, we were talking before we went on air here about, discipline and teachers and all that. And I just remember, I'm just going to bring this up because we were kind of talking about it, my dad went to Purcell, and he was always telling me stories about how the nuns would come and take a ruler and smack their hand. And you can't get away with that stuff now. And I remember at Anderson Middle School, the SWATs. I mean, you remember they'd open the door so you could hear.
Oh yeah.
You could hear them getting swatted. Yeah. And I would never forget that sound of that SWAT. You know, and it was Penwell and Larry Lucas.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys have a shop class?
We did.
I mean, the shop teachers were noted for swatting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Mr. Bunch, Mr. Finch.
Kraft.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nice call.
Ernie C. Finch, and
Ernie C. Finch with his Mickey Mouse socks. Nicky, did you play basketball?
I did up until my junior year. I played my junior year JV.
You did,
but I mean, you got Elliott and Becker and those guys. So
that was. I mean, we had talked about this recently. That era. I mean, that 1 year for sure. There was 4 Division I athletes on that basketball team.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't think nothing will ever beat that at Anderson.
So you played 3 years. Was Sanders was the coach then, wasn't he? Yeah.
And JV was Watterson.
Before he went over to Turpin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was also the JV, while he was the JV baseball coach.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A drastic difference in personality between Watterson and Neiman.
No, well, Watterson was a pitcher.
Okay.
And I mean, he went to Marietta.
Okay.
And Mr. Carr went to Marietta.
Rick Carr, nice.
Yeah. And believe it or not, Mr. Carr was amazing.
Really?
When I was at Marietta, they talked about him. I mean, he was the real deal.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they never ever talked about it.
Really?
Watterson was good.
Yeah.
I mean, Watterson had a really nasty curveball.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Such a nice guy.
But they never talked about what they did.
Right. No. Well, that's why it's amazing. Like when I was I couldn't believe we talked about Sealman.
Right.
Being, we just knew him as a counselor.
Right. We didn't know that
he was a head football coach.
Well, I mean, I the way I feel is like you're bringing up all these names of all these guys you played baseball with that were great athletes and this and that. I mean, there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of athletes and teachers and all that have been really good that we just don't know about.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of why we do this.
Yeah.
To let everybody know. And so I think it's kind of cool that we brought this stuff up.
All right. So Nick, after high school, you mentioned, I think you'd gone on to Marietta. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then on to UC.
Yes.
And you had a real good career at UC, I recall.
Yeah.
Talk about your experience at UC.
Well, I sat out my first year.
Okay.
And then my my junior and senior, my sophomore and junior year, they used me primarily as a pinch hitter.
Okay.
And it was a pretty good role. I mean, they if it was a left-handed pitcher, I'd come in, or right-handed pitcher, another guy would go in. But I got a lot of at-bats. It was a great position.
Okay.
And I hit for pretty good average.
Nice. Yeah.
High 300s.
That's great.
And who was the coach back then?
Sample.
Glenn Sample.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Yeah. Official scorekeeper
For the Reds.
Yeah.
Nice call.
When Sample, his first year as a scorekeeper, so we're playing in a tournament even at UC, he'd have his headphones on, listening to the game, because he would have a substitute doing the score.
The book, the official,
while he was coaching.
No,
that's fun.
So he's listening to the game while he's coaching.
That's great. Wow. I don't think I can concentrate like that.
No.
So have you gone down recently, like in the last 5 years, to a UC baseball game?
I haven't.
Have you seen the stadium?
I drove by maybe 2 years ago when they scalped. I guess they were going to resurface it.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice.
I haven't been either, but it's just
awesome.
It's just amazing. I mean, it's got to be better than a lot of minor league baseball stadiums.
No, I heard it's in the top 10 in the country in college.
Really? No kidding.
It's pretty sweet. I went there this year for a game, and they just a great atmosphere. They just do a really, really nice job. Yeah. It's really cool.
So when you were coming out of high school, I mean, were you recruited by Marietta? Was it just for baseball, or were you getting recruited for football as well?
No, I think back then, the only guys that really got recruited were the big guys.
Okay.
Mark Johnson, Brian Bergdahl, those real big guys were getting the letters.
Okay.
I mean, the good schools.
Okay.
I mean, we got letters, but they were all D3 schools.
Okay.
They really didn't mean anything.
Okay.
But I do know that Marietta had a good baseball group.
Yeah.
And Watterson went there, and we went on a trip there. Dodson, Steve Smith, Timmy Campbell, Jack Kaninsky went up there to see the school. But really, back then, you didn't know what your options were.
Yeah.
Really. Right. Didn't.
There was no social media or anything back then.
No.
So different.
No.
Yeah.
And I think ESPN. It was my junior year. I think ESPN just came out.
Okay.
Because when we got back into Cincinnati, the guy said, "Hey, I saw you playing baseball." I said,
really?
How was that?"
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we played at Florida State, and
really?
He said, "Yeah, I saw you playing baseball." I'm thinking, how'd you do that?
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. So let's get into the life after college and all that. What did you am I right on this, that you coached at Turpin for a little bit for baseball?
Did. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that and how you got into coaching at Turpin.
Okay. Well, my son and daughter went there.
Okay.
And my son played baseball, and the coach just approached me. I guess he knew I had played and knew I pitched, and he offered me a pitching coaching position.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to be here watching my son, so you might as well use me.
Right.
And that's how that came about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I loved it.
How many years did you do that?
I did it for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
And who was the coach there?
Lebansky.
Yeah. That's right.
So how was that coaching your son?
You know what? I left him alone.
Did you?
Yeah. When he was in the dugout, I really would get out of the dugout. I wanted him to have his own experience.
Right.
And I didn't want him to have any favoritism.
Right.
And he had a really good freshman year, and I think he bumped out an upperclassman, and then that started some trouble.
Yeah.
Which I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm involved, and you get a little bit of flare up there, but other than that, it was a great experience.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And also, Danny, just to remind everybody, what a great softball player Nicky was. I remember we would play against them. Down at Township Tavern, and he'd have a group. And
was I pitching?
Yeah, you were just lobbing them in there, just easing it. I mean, just feeding them. But I mean, it was a whole group of your class, and I was just like in awe, just because these were great athletes, growing up.
Was this the Township Tavern on Friday nights that we were?
I don't know if it was Friday nights or not. It might have been, but it was fun playing though.
Yeah, it was fun down there.
Yeah.
But I was not a good softball player.
Oh, don't cut yourself short.
I mean, I love to pull the ball.
Yeah.
And I down left field line. And I got old in softball.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to right field. Just couldn't do it.
All right, so not only is a lot of people are going to love seeing this, Nikki, but just getting caught up about you. I know you guys have reunions and everything like that, but talk to us about what you've been doing, what you're up to, and your family and your kids. We talked about your son, but what they're up to.
Well, I just retired this year. Yeah. And was in construction. Okay. So a much needed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you're happy to be inside today on 95 degrees?
Absolutely. Yeah. We built a house in Batavia.
Okay.
I have a couple of horses and a lot of grass to cut.
Nice.
Which I love.
Yeah. Good for you.
So it's low keyed out there. My son is working in the plumbing business. My daughter moved to Memphis. Okay. And they both have one kid, about a year old. And that's
great.
Yeah. Got the family started.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'd love for my daughter to move back.
Yeah.
Her husband's work took him there, so hopefully in 3 years they can move back.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah. But I love Batavia. I mean,
that's a growing area too.
Yeah.
It's a nice area.
Yeah.
You know what? There's a lot of land, but everybody's buying it.
Yeah. It's kind of like how Mount Orb has been. Mount Orb used to be nothing. Yeah. But now it's just like it's crazy out there now at Mount Orb, kind of the same way.
It's not that far too.
Yeah. It's not far to. Hey, I just real quick, but I wanted to get back to the football thing. Obviously, we're doing all those games and everything. So when Anderson wins a state championship and goes to the state finals of that, like with me, I know being a former player and how bad we were.
Right.
Did it oh my gosh, I can't believe our Anderson High School, or in the state. Does that kind of ring a little bit with you, or what do you think about all that?
I think my first reality check was when Anderson played Princeton.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what year that was.
91? Yeah.
Well, it's 92. 91, 92, yeah.
Right.
That's when they had Hayden. I think Hayden blew his knee out. He was a middle linebacker.
Yep.
But I'm thinking man, Anderson's really good.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, there was no animosity, no jealousy. It was
I loved it.
Man, about time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking where are all these big guys coming from?
I know.
And these fast guys.
Fast, yeah.
It's crazy, but it's been cool to watch. Cool to, John and I and Steve's brother Greg and Brad have all been a part of that for years, and it's just so cool to see that. You know how John and I are, and Greg and all those guys. We're just big into the Anderson history and the football and
homers.
We were talking to you about that before you got in here. The thing that Mr. Ellis put together for us, and we're working on that. We're really close to getting every single score that Anderson High School football's had over the years. I'm only missing 5 scores.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm really, really close to getting them. And I've even gone onto, you can go onto this thing called yearbooks, old yearbooks, and you can go back and you can find them all.
Really?
Well, there's a couple yearbooks that don't have any scores in there.
Yeah.
So I've got to try to find them. And so what I've been doing is you can go into newspapers.com and find and some of them have them and some of them don't. So I think I'm short on just 5 years or maybe 3 years or something like that. So it's kind of cool that I think I did it because of Mr. Ellis, honestly. Yeah. Because that's kind of a cool thing to see.
He started it. Yeah. Or if you can try to find any old Mount Washington presses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll have.
Or Forest Hills Journal.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
Do you all know who the oldest Anderson athlete is?
Oldest. So it would be. Played for Charles Brown.
So I know Vern Hawkins passed away. He was there in the 48. So it's got to be somebody in the 1948.
Who do you got? You're asking. Yeah.
It's got to be. There was a couple guys still living from the 48 team, and one of the other ones that was living just passed away. And I think there might be just one more.
Yeah, and didn't one of them go on to run in the Olympics or something? Yeah, they were unbelievable.
Well, I know Vern Vernon has done a lot of stuff. Vernon Hawkins was big in Claremont or Georgetown, and he did a lot of stuff. But Nick, I'll tell this real quick story, then we'll get to your we'll kind of close this out. But when we were doing this history of Anderson, and we were interviewing some of these guys from the 1948 team, I'm going to draw a blank on the other gentleman's name, but we interviewed both of them, and they really honestly got so emotional that we were bringing them up and talking about it. He said, like, nobody cared that we were an undefeated team and Anderson, and now they're talking about it, and they were getting emotional. And the one gentleman was talking, and he said he was in the war, and he said he remembers what got him through the war was writing his teammates. And when he was talking about it, he was getting emotional. He started crying, and he said, Anderson High School and my football team, was so dear to me. And he was getting really, and I was getting emotional just listening to hear him talk about that he just was wanting us to understand how teammates and how close Anderson and the community. And so I thought it was kind of cool, to have something like that. So it was kind of a neat story. But let's go ahead and get this wrapped up here. So we kind of talked. I should have warned you well ahead of time, but I need 3 favorite. But give me some of your memories here, like your favorite high school memory, a favorite college memory, and then maybe a favorite teacher or coach. So let's start off with your favorite high school memory. It could be any sport, anything. Doesn't even have to be sports. Prom.
I think I've told the story before. I mean, it's such a vivid memory. It has to do with a guy by the name of Johnny Monk.
Okay.
We're playing Mount Healthy, and at the time at Anderson High School, the opposite field, that the hill, it had a hill. I mean, a pretty steep hill. Right. You'd have the track, and then you'd have that hill.
Right.
So this guy's running a sweep, and he was literally on the track, clearly out of bounds.
Yeah. Right.
And Johnny Monk hits him that far out of bounds and almost puts him over the hill.
Oh, no.
and I'll never forget, they throw Monk out of the game, and he's like, what'd I do?
There's not enough room there. 25 feet out of bounds, that's what you did.
I mean, Johnny Monk was my hero. I mean, that guy was just amazing. Pound for pound, just the toughest guy around.
Really?
That's a great memory.
That's an awesome memory.
How about UC? How about playing there? Was there anybody or any big game, a big hit you had there?
Well, something that's funny. Back then, I guess a lot of us chewed tobacco. And I was in a pitch hitting role. We're playing St. Louis at St. Louis, and Sample, no warning, just calls you up to no practice swings or nothing. Yeah. So I'm getting ready, and I don't have any tobacco in my mouth, and I would never hit without tobacco in my mouth.
Okay.
So I'm going up to the plate, and I told the manager, I said, "You got to give me some tobacco." So strike one. And then he finally comes up. I go to the side. I get tobacco, put it in my mouth, and then it becomes a full count. And then I end up getting a base hit, and we win the game. So they nicknamed it the chew that came through.
I love it. So you're telling me, like the bat boy or something, brought out.
Dave Waddell was his name.
Dave brought out
my bag of chewing tobacco.
That is funny.
What did Coach Sample say anything about that?
Sample didn't like tobacco at all.
Okay.
No, but he laughed afterwards.
That is the best. That's a great story.
Yeah, they did the chew that came through.
That's hilarious. This. So I think you kind of said one of your favorite coaches was Neiman it, or was there any other coaches?
Neiman, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah. You remember any of the teachers besides the coaches?
Well, yeah. Help me out here. I like them all. I didn't have any problem with any of them.
I always bring him up. Is Roger Grooms? Was he there when you were there? Roger Grooms?
He was for that
history and speech and
more on the theater side.
Yeah. I mean, for history, he'd start reading that book, and he would act out a part. It was the weirdest thing. But he was good. He kept your attention. I mean, I had Tobias for Spanish.
Yeah, I had her.
A lot of people didn't like her, but I really liked her.
Yeah.
And had Hebling and
Mr. Hebling for science.
Letterby was there. You had
Who?
Letterby.
Only a Letterby Science.
Yeah.
Yeah, Letterby was there. Mr. Wright had to been there still.
Yeah, Science.
Yeah, he was there for a while. But yeah, there were some good teachers. I know that, it was just a great experience for us when we were in high school, and I think everybody else that's been on there said the same thing.
Who was your principal?
Mr. Hall, Mike Hall.
I don't know him.
Well, yeah, and then right before him was Bill Harris for a year.
Yeah.
And then before him
Stephen.
was Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did. Yeah, we got the tail end of it. But Nick, I tell you what, man, we've been wanting to get you on for a really, really long time. I'm glad we finally got you here. I know there's going to be a ton of people, and it's perfect timing because I think you guys got this big reunion coming up. I see because our man here that's in the studio with us. I know we see social media blasts from. They ought to make him just. I think he's an influencer, is what I think. I mean, John Raymond, the Hall of Famer influencer, is what I think. I mean, he does a lot of stuff, gets a lot of things going. So I'm glad that he was helped us out to get you in here.
Yeah.
And it's always awesome talking to you, and I haven't seen you in a while, so it's great that we get to catch up. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And I want to say, really enjoyed your dad.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
He was always, the opposing team.
Yeah.
He was the first guy to shake your hand and compliment you. Never said anything bad. I really liked it.
Well, I appreciate that.
He was the best, Nick.
Yeah.
I agree.
He was like a dad to me too, because I lived over at their house, and he was the best. I mean, he did. You're never gonna forget that guy.
No.
I never will. I mean, he was the best. So.
Well, a lot of things go thankless, and I mean, he did so much, and I'm sure a lot of it was thankless, but a lot of it was thanked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Nick,
Thank you.
He would get sometimes more excited for me because I didn't play in basketball, and he did. Sometimes he would get more excited for me coming in the game than his own son. And that's how kind of guy Mr. Ellis was.
Oh, that's awesome.
He knew when I get in the game, he was going nuts. I mean, he was that a baby.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, so he's a great guy. But again, Nick, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So again, everybody out there, if you're listening or watching, don't forget to like our YouTube channel, subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all that. Just anything you can do to like or subscribe, and even share it with anybody that you want, because it really helps us out to keep these things going and keep us motivated to keep doing this. So we really appreciate it. Again, we also got our Positive Energy podcast that we do, and our Dingo to Coach. So those as well. We're going to have a Dingo to Coach coming up here. We're going to talk about some sports, and we got a Positive Energy podcast. We got a bunch of those coming up too as well. So again, go out there and support us. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes,
so
indeed.
We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So for Steve Ellis, Nick Tarpoff, and Dan Alvarez, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you guys next week.